Hi everyone, I'm Karen from WTM Staffordshire in England, and I just wanted to make a short video to talk about chapter 5 in Freedom, the End of the Human Condition. Obviously, if you're new to the information, then the first place to start understanding what's being presented by Jeremy Griffith is the interview on the WTM's website on the homepage. And if you've watched that, the introductory videos are then great to watch as well, so particularly videos 1 to 4 and 14, but they're all amazing to watch. There's also the freedom essays that you can start looking at, and they give a bite-sized sort of look at what's in this book, but I would definitely recommend that if you're ready to read this book, then it's amazing, and it's like nothing that you're ever gonna read ever again. So yeah, Freedom, the End of the Human Condition is just a phenomenal read, and it's so phenomenal that you'll keep coming back to it, because you know your mind will just be like, I've got to reread, I've got to have another look at what's being said in some places, you know. So anyway, so I'm just going to have a look at chapter 5, which is the origin of humans' unconditionally selfless, altruistic, moral, instinctive self or soul. And at the beginning of the chapter, Jeremy's just got a picture of a bonobo and her adopted son, and has sort of drawn an equal sign to show that that the love indoctrination process that developed in our ape ancestors is what created humanity. So you can see Jeremy's drawn a picture of a mum and a baby. So I'm just going to read the beginning of chapter 5, and then I'm just going to sort of read a couple of other paragraphs, and then just briefly give an overview of what's in this chapter. So the summary of this chapter at the beginning says, when the philosopher Immanuel Kant had the following words inscribed on his tombstone, that there are two things which fill me with awe, the starry heavens above us and the moral law within us. And Charles Darwin wrote that the moral sense perhaps affords the best and highest distinction between man and the lower animals. Neither man was overstating the magnificence of our altruistic moral sense. Our moral instinctive self or soul, the voice or expression of which is our conscience, is a truly amazing phenomenon, for it provided the cooperative, unconditionally selfless love that created humanity. But as amazing as our moral soul most certainly is, its very existence is also a cause for wonder, because it raises the baffling question of how on earth did humans acquire such an awe-inspiring, distinct from other animals, moral sense? For biologists especially, the great outstanding mystery has been, how could the cold, selfish, competitive, gene-based natural selection process have possibly created such warm, unconditionally selfless, cooperative, loving instincts in us humans? While it may seem astonishing to suggest that what is now going to be presented is that most elusive of answers to this most intriguing of mysteries, that is in fact the case, this chapter contains nothing less than the truth about what it really means to be human. Which is amazing. Sorry, it's just it's really profound what's in this chapter. So if I just move over to paragraph 380 now, just a little bit further into this chapter. So Jeremy says, when the philosopher John Fiske wrote about the existence of our moral nature, he said, we approve of certain actions and disapprove of certain actions quite instinctively. We shrink from stealing or lying as we shrink from burning our fingers. And Jeremy says, and while our moral instinctive self or soul will shrink from stealing or lying, it is not merely concerned with avoiding the ill treatment of others, it is also deeply concerned with ensuring their well-being. For instance, when the professional footballer Joe Delaney admitted that I can't swim but I've got to save those kids, just moments before plunging into a Louisiana pond and drowning in an attempt to rescue 3 boys, he was considering the welfare of others above that of his own. The truth is that everywhere we look, we see examples of humans behaving unconditionally, selflessly, such as those who show charity to others less fortunate or sacrifice their lives for ethical principles. Indeed, now that we can explain the human condition, it becomes clear that since the human condition fully emerged some 2 million years ago, every generation of humans has had to suffer becoming self-corrupted in an unconditionally selfless effort to aid the accumulation of knowledge that would one day liberate humanity from the human condition. To borrow the words from the musical Man of La Mancha that were included in paragraph 68, every generation has altruistically marched into hell for a heavenly cause. Our species' unconditionally selfless moral nature is undoubtedly a wonderful phenomenon. So it's incredible, first of all, to learn that we have got selfless, cooperative, loving instincts, and that is the truth about our instincts. And then this chapter just goes into all of the detail about how our ape ancestors actually developed that moral sense and that instinctive behaviour. So chapter 5.4 is all about the love indoctrination process, which is just so incredible to read about. And it's where Jeremy explains that our ape ancestors basically had the right conditions to develop more nurturing within them. And I'll just give another just read from a little paragraph to sort of sum up what's being said. And Jeremy in 393 says, the successful nurturing of infants therefore required ample food, comfortable conditions and security from external threats over an extended period. But in addition to these practical factors, to ensure the success of the love indoctrination process, it wasn't enough to simply look after the infants, they had to be loved. And so maternalism became much more than mothers simply protecting, providing for and training their infants in life skills. It became about demonstrably loving them. Significantly, we speak of motherly love, not motherly protection, provision and training. It's really incredible what's being talked about here, and that our species had the right conditions to sort of develop extended periods in nurturing for their infants. And Jeremy then says in chapter 5.5 that there is fossil evidence that confirms the love indoctrination process, that it actually did happen, and that humanity's infancy in this stage lasted from 12 to 4 million years ago. Jeremy says, importantly, the love indoctrination process trained sort of infants in unconditional love or selflessness, but it wasn't an understanding of it, and that's quite important. So Jeremy then, I'm just sort of flicking through the chapter, looking at what I've highlighted before, and Jeremy's just going through all of the details. So he's going through all the sort of physical conditions that our ape ancestors lived in, how they were able to develop love indoctrination, sort of how bipedality is sort of closely associated with the love indoctrination process. That lots of fossil evidence is sort of providing evidence, such as small canine teeth found sort of prove that there was very low levels of aggression between males, and I think that confused scientists about why that was. Chapter 5.6, bonobos provide living evidence of the love indoctrination process, and there's some great pictures about bonobos and how they're upright and walking and developing love indoctrination, and you know, how devoted they are to their infants, and so all of that is just really you know, incredible. Chapter 5.7, Jeremy talks about the role of nurturing in our development has been an unbearably confronting truth, and that's because obviously, well, if this is how we were as ape, you know, this is how our ape ancestors were, then why are we not like that now? And that's been a very difficult question to answer, and obviously, but now Jeremy has answered that. So what has previously been really condemning for humans is not anymore. We are now really psychologically upset, and we're obviously angry, egocentric and alienated, but that's because we are fully conscious and we need a full understanding of who we are, which is what this book provides. And that is what is going to start breaking down our alienation to ourselves and breaking through our denial about who we are and about the state that we're in now, but also where we've come from, and also where we can now go sort of move on to and you know, come back to in terms of our being able to sort of listen to our instincts, follow our instincts, but as a conscious being. So it's really incredible. So I'm just going to flick through this chapter again. It is incredible. You've got to read it. You've got to read the whole book, really. But if I just want to skip through now to where Jeremy talks about a golden race formed on earth, and that's chapter 5:14. And in paragraph 469, Jeremy says, in conclusion, nurturing was the main influence or prime mover in the development of humans. Not upright walking or tool use or language or mastery of fire or migration from the forest to the savannah or any one of the other explanations that evasive, denial-complying, mechanistic biologists have been putting forward in the mountain of dishonest books that have been published on human origins. The human race had an immensely happy, all-sensitive and all-loving, thrilled and enthralled with all of life, zest for living drenched, ecstatic infancy and childhood, which, as will be described in chapter 8.2, lasted from some 12 million years ago right up to some 2 million years ago, when our conscious mind became fully developed, and with it the upset state of the human condition emerged. Not the brutish, barbaric, backward, primitive, savage, bestial, demonic, competitive, aggressive, warring, sombre, morose, unhappy drudge of an existence that our species' early existence has for so long been portrayed in documentaries. When Buddhist scripture anticipated what a human condition resolved, and thus human condition free, state would be like, that human beings are then without any blemishes, moral offences are unknown among them, and they are full of zest and joy. It was also describing what life was like in the human condition free state that existed in our past, when we had become free of the animal condition but had not yet encountered the upset state of the human condition. So it's really incredible. You've got to find out where you come from as a human being. It's just essential. You absolutely have to know that. Yeah, I just love right at the end of this chapter that Jeremy writes that at last the artificially relieving, but in truth absolutely awful, dishonest, alienated, cold, psychotic and neurotic darkness that Plato so accurately portrayed us as living in with his cave analogy can disappear from human existence, leaving in its place a world of warm sunlight once more, a world of alienation-free, truthfulness, happiness and togetherness, a world full of zest and joy. All that remains now is for the human race to make the right choice before continuing on its habituated path of denial that will lead to terminal alienation and the extinction of the human race, or choosing the path of truth that has now opened up that leads to our species transformation. It's just incredible what we get to do now. We get to, not only do we get to just understand ourselves, where we come from, why we're in this psychologically troubled state and how that can be resolved and healed with self-understanding. I think for me as well, there are just some really important bits of information here that not only remove my own denial, but I know will sort of remove everybody else's. And you know, you have to sort of read it to really fully get the context of everything that Jeremy is talking about. But the four main things I think that my mind really loves to just keep revisiting and learning about is integrative meaning, which is the meaning of life, the integrative sort of development of order of matter that is going on our planet and that we are a part of. Chapter 5, the origin of our unconditionally selfless moral instincts. Chapter 7, which is our an explanation of our conscious mind and how it works and what it is, and why we are conscious when other animals aren't, and also, of course, the explanation of the human condition itself, why becoming fully conscious produced this upset state, and how that can now be healed, you know, generationally, but but we can make that start to heal our species' troubled, psychologically upset state with self-understanding, and that's just absolutely credible. Please let me know what you think about chapter 5 if you've read it, or what you thought about this video, or how you're finding the book itself and the information in general. All right, thanks, bye.